ready for the fight. Strong and steel, we're beefed up tonight. Got the sizzle, got the flavor, we're grilling it right. Meat Boy MMA, we're bringing the might. We got the beefy lock straight from the grill. Taking it to the ring, we're out to thrill. Cash the sizzlers, hit the hammers, make them feel. Meat Boy MMA, we're the real deal.
Let's go, boys. Yo, it's been a while, Meat Boy. We got a new setup, new locks. Everything is a little bit different here. I mean, dude, what have we been doing without UFC fights the last couple weeks? How have you been maintaining?
Honestly, it's really been a freaking struggle, man. Every Saturday, I'm like, oh, what's the next? Oh, wait, there's nothing. I don't know what to do with my life. I end up just looking at UFC cards all day. I've been coming up with absolute bangers, and that's all I do because I'm craving UFC, but the UFC won't deliver. But guess what? They're back.
Yeah, I feel like that time spent between the last UFC card is always like mid-December, and then when it comes back, almost mid-January. That's like those are like the longest 4 weeks of the year. But this card I feel like is low-key stacked. I mean, before we even jump into this card, I mean, there's some pretty exciting pay-per-views coming around the corner. UFC 299, that Florida card. I guess I'm curious, Meat Boy, like how are they gonna do for UFC 300, given the fact how stacked 299 is? Like all those fights that are already announced on UFC 299, how are they gonna make 300 just as sick?
Honestly, I do not know, but the only thing I can imagine is they're going to have to pull out a absolute unicorn. Maybe Hamza, maybe Bo Nickel. Like, that's who could make the show, at least for the hardcores. I don't know. 299 is absolutely insane.
Well, remember, Nickel versus Cody Brundage is already on UFC 300, right? And then today, Dana just announced China versus China. Yan Xiaonan is going to be challenging against Wang Zhili. So at least they got one title fight.
Yeah.
I think Dana said that he's going to announce 2 more title fights as well. So, I mean, what do you think? Who's going to fill those next title fights on 300?
Yeah, that's pretty good, man. Yeah, that's pretty sick actually. No, I'm very curious to see where that's gonna go. I mean, so you have Yuri Prochazka, which that's an interesting one for UFC 300. But man, yeah, I don't know. UFC 299, I think, just blows it out of the park. Like UFC 300 is cool. You got Bo, you got Charles, but yeah, I mean, when you're looking at these, the names, the talent, the only one that actually gets me excited when I'm looking at UFC 300 versus 299 is gonna be Bo Nickel and Charles. Aljamain Sterling versus Calvin. It's like that cool, but Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera 299. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit 299. We won't talk about Macy Barber versus Kachukian, but Curtis Blades versus Jalton. Like, that's crazy. We've been asking for this forever. And then you have Gamer versus RDA. Like, come on. Kyler Phillips versus Pedro. Like, the list goes on and on. I mean, way low. You got Peter Young versus The Dong. Kevin Holland versus MVP. I mean, 299 is what UFC 300 should have been. That's how I feel, at least. Like, it's absolutely bonkers. Now, 300 is not filled up, right? So maybe I'm talking too early. I don't know.
Sure.
But it's going to be hard to beat 299. Like, do you think Izzy would maybe pop on the card? Like,
I mean, he's retired till 2027, so it's like I don't know if they're going to squeeze him on UFC 300, but 299 being stacked. I mean, we didn't even mention Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della. We got Robelis Despagne making his debut against RuneScape. Josh Parisian, your boy Michel Pereira, Demoladors fighting my boy Michel Olegzaychuk. Like, we got a lot of bangers on 299, but I mean, I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves, and who knows how they're gonna fill UFC 300, but there's some good stuff in between as well. Your boy Bodybags Piper's fighting Jack Hermanson. We got Delize versus Imavov headlining a card, and then, dude, already next week, believe it or not, Strickland versus Duplessis, and of course we're gonna be breaking those fights down and that entire card, which features Movsar Evloev, Arnold Allen, Air Jordan, Mike Malott versus McGhee, and then obviously the title fight that literally everyone has been begging for, Myra Buena Silva versus Rocky Pennington. So we got stuff all around the bend, essentially, bangers after banger. But I mean, this first fight night back, what are your thoughts just right away on Ankalaev versus Walker on this card in general, and then we'll break these things down.
Yeah, it's a solid one. I'm glad they're running it back. I was pretty upset on how the last bout went, so I'm very excited. I have a weird, I'm gonna wait for the breakdown actually to give what I think is gonna happen, but I'm just happy it's back on because that was something that there's unfinished business there. It's bound to happen. It has to happen, and I think it's gonna be a good fight. It's a good one to come back to. It sizzles us back into getting excited for these bigger cards.
Yeah, it's definitely a good transition sizzler, and I too am glad that they're running this one back because that first fight just had the strangest ending. Some sort of miscommunication between Johnny Walker, English not being his first language, and the doctor who I think was speaking. It was all sorts of chaos that infected that first go through. So I'm excited to run this one back. Manel Kopp, Matthias Nicolau, Jim Miller's on this card against good Googly Mowgli, Ricky Simon, Mario Batista. We got a lot of bangers, and we're kicking off with a meatlock. You trying to get right into it, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, let's get right into it. Let's get into the juice. Let's get into the lock, the laugh, and the sizzle.
Just right away, go right into it. Yeah, let's go. Then we got Marcus McGhee, absolute meatlock, our boy, taking on Gaston Bolanos, the Dream Killer, who we think that the dream for Gaston is absolutely killed. Marcus McGhee, the maniac, is going to be the one doing the execution, so to speak. And Marcus McGhee is a guy who we've actually been pretty excited for, fighting out of Phoenix, Arizona. He's an MMA lab guy, and this is one of those dudes who in 2023 got his opportunity, and once he did, he took it and ran with it, right? He's been looking absolutely sick, and in this one as a pretty decent favorite, minus 258, it's going to be an absolute lock against the Dream Killer Gaston Bolanos. So what are your thoughts on this bantamweight throwdown? 8-1 is the Maniac McGhee. 7-3 is the Peruvian Dream Killer. What do you like about McGhee in this one? How does he get it done against Bolanos?
McGhee is an absolute savage. He's fighting out of Arizona. Dude's a stud. He came up from the regional scenes over there, and he's been just showing everyone like he is the real deal. He should have been here long ago. He is an older guy, which is I was surprised that Dana took him because he's looking for 20-year-olds, not 30, 33 around there. But he's a savage. He's a stud. He looks healthy. He looks great. He looks like he's been in the UFC for years. He looks like a veteran. And I think he's absolutely going to demolish this guy. This guy has no idea what he's getting into. And that's why Mr. McGhee is a McLock.
Yeah, he's a McLock for sure. And, we've seen Gaston Bolanos kind of struggle with his takedown defense at times. He can get taken down. I mean, when he fought against Aaron Phillips, yes, he did win that fight, but Aaron Phillips was taking him down repeatedly. And I think that that's kind of a weakness of Gaston, whereas McGhee is a dude who just pushes a gnarly pace. He can wrestle his face off. He can box with the best of them. He's pretty well-rounded, and he's 33 going on 43. But you mentioned it's not the prototypical guy that Dana brings in, but he seems ready. And I mean, I've been watching some interviews. I caught one with a channel that's called Cultiviano's Corner. Did a sick interview with our boy McGhee and gave us some insight into who this guy is, and the guy just seems dialed in. So I think it's an absolute lock for this one. We're going to be keeping it simple. Our meatlock kind of did not close out on a strong note. Our boy Bryce Mitchell got absolutely flatlined by Josh Emmett, so we didn't end the year off on a meatlock. So we're still in the green, meat boy, but we got to get McGhee to keep this meatlock back on track. So we're keeping it simple, throwing down an easy minus 258, gonna net 100, get us our 90th meatlock, and I think that McGhee is likely to get a finish in this one. Are you anticipating a finish, or is it going to be a decision over Gaston?
I think it will be a finish. McGee's grappling is pretty insane, and his opponent, he has 2 of his 3 losses is from a submission, so I'm kind of feeling a submission win here. But McGhee's great. He can win decision, submission, or TKO. Wouldn't surprise me either way. I think McGhee's going to send this Bellator bum back to Bellator after this, and then McGhee's going to make a run for the title. I think in 3-4 fights, if he starts, keeps demolishing these people like he has been for his last 2, I mean, he's just been steamrolling through these guys in the UFC. I mean, JP Buys, man, feels bad. That was a brutal one. He just can't catch a break. First Roman Dolidze, now the Maniac McGhee. It's like, oh man, feels bad for him. But Maniac's gonna keep on that upward trajectory. I got high hopes. I hope that they come out with a card for him. I would love to collect his rookie card of this year 24.
Yeah, that'd be sick if they snuck him into some product. It seems like a pipe dream. I hope that they do, but you wonder, because I always feel like Panini is like a year behind most of these guys, and the hardcores be picking up on McGhee and putting down what he's selling, but I think Panini's always 6 months to 12 months behind. But that'd be tight for sure. Either way, Tapology is in agreement. They're with the Meat Boys. 91% go with McGhee, 9% go with Gaston. I'm with you. I think that he gets a finish in this one. Any last thoughts, Meat Boy, before we jump right into the next breakdown, Ferreira versus Haas?
Yeah, no. This is a lock nonetheless. Let's get into the next video, and this whole card is pretty stacked to get us started for the new year.
Middleweight meat in this one, Meat Boy. Meatlock's on the back burner, and let's just get to the regular breakdowns now. Bruno Ferreira, aka the Hulk, taking on Phil Haas, Megatron, who he's a slight dog in this one, which I found to be kind of surprising because he's at plus 110, and I guess it makes sense. He's lost 2 straight, got finished in both of them, but if you really inspect these losses, I mean, he got finished by Ikram Lockeram, and obviously we were all over that one. And then before that, he got slept in the first round by Roman Dolidze. But those are 2 top 10 guys, and he picked up the nice win against Duran win before that, and got slept by Chris Curtis as well. So he's 4-3 in the UFC with his 3 losses all coming in the first round against Ikram Lockeram, Roman Dolidze, and Chris Curtis. So he's taking on Bruno Ferreira in this one, who is 1-1 in the UFC. He slept RoboCop in a fight that he was kind of losing, and then, boom, landed just the perfect straight meat bomb that split Gregory wide open, put him to sleep, and then the next time he fought, he got absolutely smoked by our boy Nursultan Ruziboev, a.k.a. Body Bags, one of Body Bags' #1 training partners, one of those crazy Philly boys. So in this one, what are your thoughts on Bruno being a minus 130 favorite, and do you like him as a near pick'em, or do you think Phil Haas and the 7-fight UFC experience and a couple nice wins, I mean, he took out Imavov back in the day, and he took out Jacob Malkoun too, so is that going to be enough for Phil Haas to get this done against the Hulk?
You did leave out one other legend, Kyle Dawkins. He did defeat him, but that is nor here nor there. But yeah, pretty crazy to see that he did take out Imavov back in 21, which is pretty impressive. And if you look at his fight streak up until Chris Curtis, he was looking like he could be, a top 5 or top 10er. But then Chris Curtis derailed that real quick. Then Roman did, and Ikram. But those guys are the true top 5, top 10. This is going to be a banger, man. It's hard. It's hard for me. I mean, it makes sense why it's such a close odds. I think I would have to fade Phil on this one and pick Bruno, but it wouldn't surprise me if Phil gets it done. I mean, if you look at the guys he's beat, he can get back on that streak. But is that chin gone? The Hulk can smash. That is for sure. The dude's kind of a bum, but he does hit like a train if he touches you. So this is going to be a fun fight, definitely for the fans. Everyone's going to be happy because one of these guys are going to sleep. Or it's a snooze fest, which I tend to think that this is going to be a banger fight. Slobber knocker.
Yeah, I'm with you in the sense that I could see this being a 15-minute snoozer, or I could see this fight being over in 15 seconds and someone gets absolutely slept early and often. So could be either way for sure. Both guys, I think, have some lethal one-punch finishing, knock-you-out power. Bruno Ferreira, again, those straight punches that he slept RoboCop with, and then Phil Haas just swings with vicious intent, and when he connects on you, I mean, Jacob Malkoun basically ate the first punch of the fight and then was Dunzo Balunzo. He got absolutely slept, and all Jacob Malkoun has done since that fight is dominate, guys. So that, to me, was a nice win for Phil Haas, Imavov as well. But, again, Bruno's a slight favorite. Tapology's loving Bruno. 80% is rolling with him. It's basically all Brown. they think that Phil Haas is going to get slept again like he has in the last 2 fights. And in this one, meat boy, I got to roll with Phil Haas. I think that there's a lot of advantages here. He's got the slight height advantage. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. He's training at Kill Cliff FC with all those killers, and I think this is another one of those. We say it all the time when we break down middleweight UFC fights. This is a mid-tier middleweight matchup where all these guys go in a circular fashion, beat each other. I think that Fajeda is going to close as like a -150 favorite, and Phil Haas, no height Megatron, is going to find a way to either sleep Fajeda early and often, or like you said, win a snoozer of a decision. And I think that his wrestling might even come to play in this one, because every time we've seen Bruno fight in the UFC, and granted it's only been 2 fights and it's only been 2 rounds, we haven't really seen him try to defend takedown after takedown. And I think that could be a recipe for success, because we know Phil Haas, in addition to his meat slinging bombs that he's throwing, has a very serious grappling game and offensive wrestling arsenal as well. So I'm going to take Phil Haas. I'm going to roll with the slight dog, and I hope the action keeps coming in on the Hulk, because I think that no hype is going to have some dog value in this one. So any last thoughts on this one? I'm going to go Phil Haas. I'm going to say officially by decision.
Yeah, no, it would not surprise me, and yeah, I think you're right on that. On the Phil Haas, I think more juice is going to come towards him with those odds. It's only going to get better for him on the plus side as a dog, I think, as it gets closer. It is kind of surprising to see people are putting even a slight stock in either one of these guys. To be honest, both kind of bumps, but very excited to see who gets knocked out first. Phil just scares me. Those last 2 KOs, pretty brutal. That's my only reason why I'm going with Bruno. If not, I'd probably take Phil if he lost him by decision, because I don't think Bruno's really that good. But throw in the comments, guys, what you think on that matchup is, and who's getting snuffed first.
Yeah, good stuff. And Ricky Simon versus Bautista is next. Let's get into it. It's bantamweight beef. Mario Bautista taking on our boy Ricky Simon, and this one has some serious, I think, bantamweight. This has some serious bantamweight implications, because both these dudes are, I wouldn't say in desperate need of a win, because our boy Bautista is riding a nice 5-fight win streak, but Ricky Simon, I think, does desperately need a win in this one, because he came into that fight against Song Yudong most recently, and it was in April of last year, and that fight was just sort of non-competitive, and I thought that he was going to fight a closer fight than he did, but Song Yudong proved just how solid that fighter is, and Ricky Simon got kind of knocked down a peg, and it was surprised to see, because we had seen Ricky Simon win 5 fights. He was picking up finish after finish, right? Smoked Jack Shore, got performance of the night, smoked a Sun Tzu in the 2nd round, beat Brian Kelleher, beat Ray Borg, split decision, and he was looking very nice. And then if we scroll all the way back to his early UFC days, this is the only guy that has a win over Merab Dvalishvili, and he's got a win over Montel Jackson too, which has been aging pretty nicely. So Bautista, meanwhile, 13-2 overall, is 7-2 in the UFC, and he's a plus 154 dog in this one, despite having won 5 in a row. But the fighters he's been beating probably aren't on the same caliber as the fighters that Simone has been going up against recently. Has wins over Damon Blackshear, Guido Canetti, Benito Lopez, and he beat Brian Kelleher as well. So it's a great level test. I think it's a good opportunity for Bautista to show how good he really is. Is he going to take out Ricky Simon in this one? Is Ricky Simon donezo, or is this the matchup that Simon needs to get back on track?
Yeah, I think this is the one that he needs to get on track. Both of these fights are massive for both of these kids' careers, because this is definitely the hardest fight Mario has gone versus, and Ricky needs a tune-up, but he doesn't get easy fights. For the caliber he's been fighting recently, he only gets animals. It looks like they're putting him up against, hey, here's a young pup, the new guy. Ricky, you've been fighting top guys. This guy might be that next top guy also. Mario's coming in hot. I could see the upset, but I mean, man, I don't know. I gotta go with my absolute boy.
I'm Pickle Rick!
So the homie Ricky Simon is definitely getting it done. I think he's going to ground and pound. I think he's going to have the speed, the strength, the experience, all of that in the UFC. And I think he's just a higher level fighter, but maybe I'm off and Mario just snuffs him first round.
Yeah, if Ricky Simone loses this fight against Bautista, like what would be Bautista's best pathway? Because I mean, we obviously imagine Simone's going to have the wrestling advantage, and Bautista is no slouch in that department. But Simone can push a pretty crazy pace, and when he's having success, when he's dominating guys, is usually mixed in the grappling pretty well. He was unable to do that against Song Yadong. Song Yadong just stuffed his takedowns effortlessly. So, do you think that Simone's going to go back to those wrestling ways? And if so, is that how Bautista takes this L, or do you see Simone getting it finished? Like, if Bautista loses this fight, how does Simone win it?
I think Simone is going to dominate, kind of like how Sean Brady did in his last bout, but I think Ricky Simone will get a TKO ground and pound. I think he's going to outmuscle him. I mean, nobody's built like the Dongers. We thought Ricky could get it done. Dong is built different. The kid is so strong and also very skilled in wrestling defense. I don't know if Mario is. I think Ricky's going to out-grapple and out-strength him. That's the biggest keys. I think Ricky's going to be a lot stronger in this bout, and I think he's going to get it to the ground pretty easily.
Yeah, I buy that. Tapology's kind of seeing it the same way too. 72% is rolling with Pickle Ricky Simone. 28% rolling with Mario Bautista. And I'm excited for this fight because obviously Bautista's going to be coming ready. It's a big fight card for these MMA lab guys. But ultimately, I'm going to roll with you. I'm going to take Ricky Simone. I'm going to convince myself that Ricky's not done yet. The Song Yadong fight was just a setback against a likely 2024 future champ, Song Yadong. So let's not write off Ricky yet. Let's see if he can get this one done against Bautista. But if Bautista finds a way to sneak this one out, then I worry for Ricky, and I'm excited for Mario because Mario Bautista has been getting better and better, and it wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world if somehow he comes out here and takes out Ricky Simone because Mario's talented, and I think he's very deserving of this opportunity and this opponent, frankly. So I'm going to go Ricky. I'm going to go by decision, though. Any last thoughts on this one, and then we can start talking about the OG Jim Miller?
No, yeah, I 100% agree with you there. I think, like you said, Tapology, they're on it. I think, people that are watching are kind of on it also. But throw in the comments, maybe you're off of it. I'd love to know.
100% Meat Boy. We'll see who's off. And Jim Miller is seemingly off of no cards. This guy fights every single UFC card, seemingly, despite being 40 years old. He's got the most wins in UFC history, and he's usually a dog. Like, I feel like Jim Miller, the last couple of years, he's won 4 of his last 5 fights and seemingly is looking better and better. But in most of the fights he's in, he ends up becoming the underdog. But in this one against Gabriel Benitez, good googly mogly, he's a slight favorite, minus 135. Around plus 114 is Benitez. And Tapology right away is all over Jim Miller. 90% loving A10, which to me was a little bit surprising. And only A10% is rolling with Gabriel Benitez, who is coming off a recent win, but it was against Charlie Ontiveros. And Charlie Ontiveros is one of the worst UFC fighters to be signed with the promotion within the last, 5 or 10 years. The guy was truly terrible. So it was not a great win for Benitez, but a win nonetheless, and a win he needed, because if we remember, he had lost 2 straight before that. Oh, Obama absolutely slept him. Billy Q TKO'd him in a fight of the night, and before that, he beat Justin James, the Guitar Hero. That was that weird fight where Justin James threw his entire purse on himself and then got absolutely slept in the first round. But nonetheless, good googly mogly has lost 4 of 6, and his only wins are against the Guitar Hero and Ontiveros. So in this one, for an opponent like Jim Miller, who has the most wins in UFC history, do the odds make sense? Are you buying Jim Miller as a slight favorite in this one, or is good googly mogly with those lethal leg kicks going to come in and take out Jim Miller?
Yeah, Jim Miller, he should get it done, but he's getting older. He's not as sharp. He's not as fast. I could see googly moogly, rip a leg kick and send Jim Miller's leg to the shadow realm, where Anderson Silva's leg still is trying to be found. Same with Chris Weidman. So would not surprise me, but I gotta take Jim. I think he'll get it. He's a little more stockier. He should be stronger. So being an absolute veteran and a savage, he's been looking great in his age. I'm rooting for Jim. I like him at these odds. If it goes past these, gets up to 150, 160, even or higher, definitely not going to be putting any more sauce on him or putting him in parlays. I like the 130 or less. So hopefully lots of action comes to Gabriel. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm with that all the way. If Jim Miller closes like as a slight favorite near pick'em, I think that there's some solid value for that because when just inspecting the resumes, I mean, Jim Miller's just faced way tougher guys and has way sicker wins than Benitez does. I mean, Benitez's best win was probably against Jason the Kid Knight, and that was back in 2017 in a weird fight where Knight was deducted some points. So if your best win is Hick Diaz in 2017, I think you're going to get smoked against someone like Jim Miller. And the intangibles are basically the same, other than Jim Miller being 5 years older. They're both going to be coming in at lightweight, obviously 5'8", 71-inch reach. So on paper, these guys match up pretty well. Skill for skill, though, I just think Jim Miller's going to have the advantage. And Jim Miller's just too smart of a fighter in the sense that if he's eating those lethal leg kicks, if good Googly Mowgli's trying to, like you said, send him to the leg shadow realm with Silva, with Chris Weidman, I gotta imagine Miller will shoot some timely takedowns, find some ways to get some top position, and grind out the fight on the ground, and maybe even pick up a submission or a TKO down there. So I see this one being not great for good Googly Mowgli. I'm going to take Jim Miller by decision, but I'm going to be checking out the round 2 finish and the round 3 finish for Jim Miller because I see a world where Benitez just sort of blows his wad early, and as a result, Jim Miller can capitalize in round 2 or round 3. So if we're looking at plus 1,400, plus 1,800 range, Jim Miller R2, R3 finish, I think there's some juicy beef there. So I'm taking Jim Miller. I like him as a slight pick 'em. Any last thoughts on this one?
No. This is a fun fight, an absolute OG of the game. Rooting for Jim. You just got to. If you're a fan of the UFC, you're a fan of Jim, and you're rooting for one of the last few veterans that are still in the game, which is just impressive nonetheless. But next bout is an absolute banger also. So let's get into that.
I'm down, meat boy. It's the co-meet, and this one's interesting because it's actually a rematch between Matthias Nicolau and Manel Kopp, a.k.a. Starboy. And when these two fought back in 2021, it was a very close split decision win for Nicolau. And I remember it was a fight that I know Starboy thought he won, and some fans thought that maybe Manel Kopp had done enough to win that one as well. But it was a weird sort of start to Starboy's UFC tenure because he lost 2 very close fights, right? Debuted against Pantoja, lost that one, and then lost the split decision in a controversial one to Nicolau. But since then, he's rifled off 4 straight wins, took out Ode Osborne, and most recently, I thought, and probably most impressively, even though he didn't have the resume to back it up, was against Felipe Dos Santos, who came in unafraid, was initially supposed to be a Contender Series guy, but got the call to fight Starboy and made a good account of himself and ended up earning Fight of the Night. But a good win for Starboy, a 4th in a row, and he's a pretty decent minus 250-ish favorite in this one against Nicolau, who is 19-3-1 overall, 7-2 in the UFC, and he was on a beautiful 6-fight win streak before running into Brandon Royval in April of last year. And Raw Dog absolutely smoked Nicolau in the first round, earned himself a title shot, and Nicolau was basically right there. So a great opportunity here to get back in that title challenger conversation if he picks up a win against Starboy, because I know Starboy has been itching for a championship opportunity, and maybe something impressive against Nicolau gets him a title challenge in 2024. So what are your thoughts on this one, Meat Boy? Do you think Starboy at around minus 250 is juicy beef, or is that too much of a price tag, and maybe you like Nicolau to beat him again?
Yeah, it's very interesting to see these odds. I mean, sometimes people just have your number, And so I think I'm going to go with Nicolau on this. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see 13% are taking him and 87% Cape when Cape lost to him. And lost to him, it was a close fight, but he still lost to him. And so maybe he gets revenge, but also maybe Nicolau has his number. I think that might be the case in this one. I'm going to go with Nicolau. I like him by submission or decision. Maybe Cape could pull off a KO, but I don't know. I think it'll be more of a decision on his end. Pretty surprised to see so much of that Brown for that KO by Tapology for Cape. But yeah, I don't know what. Maybe everyone forgot that he already fought Nicolau and Nicolau won. I'm not too sure why it's such a big difference. If anything, it should be a pick'em. It was a close fight. It was very competitive. I think we'll see a similar thing, but I think Nicolau will come on top.
Yeah, I too was surprised by the odds. I thought that they'd be a little bit tighter given their history. I think the odds are probably influenced by Starboy's recent success and the fact that this guy has been looking better and better each fight. And Nicolau, meanwhile, just got absolutely smoked in the first round. So maybe the odds makers are a little bit concerned with the trajectory of Nicolau, perhaps going one way while Starboy is starting to peak. But you already touched on Tapology, 87% rolling with Starboy. More than 50% is rolling with the KO, which I found a little bit fascinating. But again, maybe they think that Nicolau chin is truly broken. But 13% rolling with Matthias Nicolau. If you're taking Nicolau, you take him by decision, or is he going to pick up a finish against Starboy?
I think it's going to be by a decision or a submission. I don't know. These little guys, they don't really put too many people out, but a submission can always happen with them. But yeah, I think Nicolau will dominate this round. Hopefully, I do like that he's a juicy dog. I mean, that's just so appetizing. He's already beaten him once. Good chance he beats him again.
Yeah, for sure. He might get this one done, and if he does, I wouldn't be surprised, and a lot of people will be satisfied with the odds that they're getting him at for sure. So I'm going to go Starboy. I'm going to take him by decision, but I anticipate this fight looking very similar to their first competition where it's back and forth. At the end, we don't know who wins, and maybe Manel gets hosed by the judges again, but I'm going to roll the judges to be on his side for this one, and I'm taking Starboy by decision. So it's a fun co-meet event, a good opportunity for both guys. Let's talk about this meet event, bro. You ready for this?
Absolutely.
It's the meet event, and right away, Meat Boy, the first thing that jumps out to me are the odds in this one. I think it's absolutely crazy that Magomed is a minus 550 favorite, and I shill for Magomed. I think Magomed Ankalaev is perhaps a future champ, especially if he can win this fight. But to get Johnny Walker at around plus 410 when he's just been looking absolutely insane lately screams juicy value to me. But let's break this one down because Johnny Walker's 21-7-1 overall. Magomed, meanwhile, is 17-1-1 overall. And it's interesting that both of Magomed's last two fights have ended without a winner, right? 2 fights ago was against Jan. It was that controversial split draw where Dana was unpleased. 2 new guys jumped in for the next belt opportunity. Magomed got essentially bypassed, and they stuck him up against Johnny Walker, and they fought just a few months ago, but it ended with the controversy. There was the illegal knee, then the miscommunication with the doctor. It was all just pretty crazy out there in Abu Dhabi, so makes sense that they're running this one back, and Johnny Walker gets this opportunity because Jay Walker was looking absolutely sick when he got the decision over Anthony Smith, smoked Paul Craig early and often, and then got the performance of the night finish over your boy Iwan Kute Laba. So it was 3 nice wins for Johnny Walker, which was great to see because if we kind of backtrack a little bit, Johnny Walker lost 4 of 5, was basically flirting with BKFC, and got that win against Iwan that turned around his career. So in this one, at around plus 410, are those odds juicy enough for you to lay the beef on Johnny Walker, or is Magomed just going to be coming into this one very angry, ready to put Johnny out, and Johnny's getting slept? Who you take?
Yeah, that first bout was just so bizarre, so I'm so happy they're running it back because this is such a fun fight, a funny fight, and love to see it. Walker's kind of making an absolute comeback. I remember there was a point where we saw him live first time, and we were like, holy smokes, nobody's beating this guy. He is going to beat John Jones. I mean, this has got to be, I don't even know, like 5-8 years ago. And then right when he did that worm, we go, oh, never mind. And it was all downhill from there. It was just a very truly unfortunate event. And somehow he has risen and he's been dancing his way to victory. I mean, he's been dancing so much on the internet that, I mean, he hasn't lost sense, pretty much, and he's on an absolute tear. So it would not surprise me if he gets an absolute snuff. Those odds are insane. I'm going to be sprinkling something on there because that's a no-brainer. Johnny Walker can put out anyone. He has the power. He has the punching ability. But I think Magomed is just too good. I'm still going to be putting a little sizzle on Johnny, but I got Magomed winning this, and I think it's going to be dominant, and I think it's going to be a little lame because he's a counter puncher, and I think it's either Johnny wins by knockout, Magomed wins by decision. I just don't. Magomed, the last few fights have not really been showing he's got that killer instinct anymore. It's almost like he fights points to just survive and get to that title. He wants to be champion. He definitely can be champion. He is so good. But I feel like he's playing a little too safe. Like he was like really crazy and powerful, knocking out Iwan, and then starts just doing the counter punching and playing it very slow and safe, not overextending it, not making an error. A very tough fighter to fight, probably a very annoying fighter to fight, but he's there to not lose versus dominate and win. You know what I mean? Like that's what it feels like recently. But maybe hey, it's 2024. Maybe Magomed is a new man and he snuffs Johnny first round. I don't know, but I'm excited for this fight.
Yeah, I'm stoked too, and it's very true because early Magomed. When this guy debuted, he lost that fight against Paul Craig. We talk about it all the time. Greatest submission in UFC history. He was dominating Paul Craig for 14 minutes 59 seconds. Paul Craig throws up the YOLO, picks up the literal last second submission. But after that, it was just angry Magomed picking up finish after finish. Marcin Prachniow got absolutely slept in the first round. Magomed got the performance of the night. After that, he fights Dalcha Lungiambula, lands that gnarly front kick, just puts Dalcha Not Champion on wobbly legs, gets absolutely slept. And then Iwan Kutelaba, remember, he sleeps in the first time. Iwan starts whining about it. UFC says, okay, we'll run it back. Iwan gets slept even worse the second time. So it was peak Magomed. He was coming in angry. He's fighting for the finishes. But since then, it was a lot of decisions, right? And I guess it makes sense in that the opponents, the skill level of his opponents were elevated. Nikita Krylov is on a nice tear, picked up a decision win against him, got a decision win over Uzdemir, and then that weird fight against Thiago Santos where they both kind of stared at each other, and Thiago Santos left the UFC after that one because it was that bad of a performance for him. But nonetheless, a different version, to your point, of Magomed throughout the last couple of years. So it's interesting to see. I'm interested to see what he's going to look like in this one against Johnny Walker. And I like your idea that if Johnny can get this one done, it's probably going to be by knockout. This guy is so big. Has a 7-inch reach advantage, and they're going to be similar in height, but Johnny Walker even has a couple inches there as well. So if Johnny can get this done, I think it's probably by knockout. But I'm for Meat Boy picking Magomed Ankalaev. I got to stick with Magomed, but at minus 510, I don't really see much value there. I don't see him. I think it's too dangerous to put in a parlay because Johnny Walker has some life. So maybe some available props. What if we're thinking ahead? There's no value for Magomed at minus 510. If you were going for some proper beef, what might Ankalaev props look like on your end?
Yeah, Ankalaev beef, if I had to guess, it might be submission or KO. I doubt the decision is maybe plus 104, or maybe minus. That's what I would imagine, but I don't know. I'd have to check. But I think there could be something there for KO or submission, but I don't know. I just don't see Magomed trying to grapple this fight at all. So that's probably a big long shot. If I had to guess, the prop to play is going to be, the under. That's what I would be looking at, see what those juicy odds are, see, because Magomed, he could knock out Walker. Walker's got a glass jaw. We've seen him get snuffed by so many people, but it's like he's been reborn. He's been looking absolutely great. I really don't know. The odds are so crazy. This should be more like a minus 200, minus 250, in my opinion. So definitely some juicy beef to look at what other props there are. Check out Johnny Walker and let a little sizzle slide.
Yeah, I buy that for sure, and perhaps the under 2.5 does have some value because it's probably going to be even money, maybe even plus money for the under 2.5. And if Johnny Walker wins, it's probably by early finish. And if Ankalaev shows up as the reborn, angry finishing killer that he used to be, then that might mean an early exit for Johnny Walker. So either way, there's pathways for both guys to win early in this fight for sure. So I like where your head's on that one. KO submission might be, if there's plus money there as well, could be juicy, but it's going to be tough to play this one because the odds are crazy. the value's on Johnny Walker. The potential's there, but Magomed is just so well-rounded, and you touched on that glass jaw of Johnny. If the glass jaw Johnny comes back against Magomed, then it could be a long night for sure. But Tapology is pretty bullish on Ankalaev. 73% is rolling with him. 27% going Johnny Walker. All of Johnny Walker is basically his Brown, so they think that it's KO or bust for the Brazilian. But I'm taking Ankalaev. I'm going to take him by finish. But if Johnny Walker gets this one done, that's pretty exciting because while Magomed is one of my favorite fighters in the division, Johnny Walker getting a title fight would be hilarious. It'd be the ultimate redemption story. A guy that came in guns blazing and then was so bad for a while, and now suddenly is so good again. It'd be fun to see him in a title fight against Alex Pereira. I mean, can you imagine Johnny Walker versus Alex Pereira?
That would just be, honestly, that would be a blessing in disguise. I would be so down for that. That would be hilarious, and that would be awesome. Lots of good stuff coming up this year. Lots of great things. Hope you guys like the new layout. Throw in the comments, smash subscribe, like, let us know. Throw also the notification bell.